Like to welcome you all on behalf of the Mental Health Association of Fauquier County. We are excited to be doing another Lunch and Learn. And this month's topic is on what now, navigating life's transitions. Just to let you all know, there we go. I'm Renee Norden. I'm the executive director. My background is in school counseling and emergency mental health, and I've been with this organization for about 2.5 years. Presenting with me today is...
Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget Downey. I'm the Programs and Events Manager at the Mental Health Association, and I have background in higher ed student services. So kind of navigating students when they're experiencing life transitions is something I've dealt with before, and I'm happy to share this program with you all today. Thanks for joining us.
And so today we are going to be talking about those unique challenges for... I know we advertise for talking about like students transitioning from high school to college, or high school to the workforce, or from college to the workforce. But we want to let you know that anything we talk about today can be for any challenge or any change that you are thinking of, any transition for adults and for children. At this point in our nation's history, our young people, especially those that are, high schoolers, college, have experienced that pandemic. And so what we see is that they are sort of facing a bigger challenge than maybe we might remember. So for those young people who are on this call, understand that, yes, it's been quite different for you. I mean, we had the pandemic, which sent everyone home. It also led to feelings of being out of control. For the first time in our lives, and even for the adults' lives, this was a time when we hadn't experienced anything like this. So there was lots of feelings of uncertainty and being out of control. It also took away the sort of what we would call normal, what we felt was normal. We like to refer to that as typical. So for high school students thinking about going to college, at that point, it was different. And for individuals going out into the workforce, it was also different as well. And that is why we have seen an uptick in mental health concerns. And so you can see the statistics there, they are concerning. But for that adolescent and youth mental health increase in mental health concerns, that actually started about 7 to 8 years before the pandemic. We do know that we are at epidemic levels for these concerns. And so we want to do everything we can to help these young people navigate these transitions as we're talking about. For our adults, we also know that mental health concerns are at epidemic levels for them as well, but their epidemic started with the pandemic. So not, more into those issues of lack of connection, lack of consistency, things like that. So today we really wanted to talk about that journey, how it isn't, making these transitions. It is a journey. It is not a destination. And so we're going to take you all through steps that help navigate these transitions, these changes, because we have this idea, right? Anytime we're going through a change or a transition, we have an idea of what it's going to be like. But unless we do some planning and, really thinking about it, we don't want to sort of put all our eggs in one basket. We want to make sure that we are enjoying the process of getting there and not just having that picture of what it's going to be like. Also being open to the idea that maybe what we're picturing in our head might not happen exactly, and that's going to be okay. So today we are going to go over these 7 steps. And we're first going to talk about core values and challenges and maybe other things we need to think about. Then thinking about that long-term goal. What is the destination? Where are you hoping to get to? Then what are your devices? What are some things that are going to help you get there? And then roadblocks, things that might stymie that journey, ways to work around that thing. Our rest stops we're talking about today are things that kind of feed your soul, that keep you going in the right direction. And then we'll see about wellness plans and toolboxes. So first, we'd like to talk about core values. I think I remember a quote from Alice in Wonderland where it talks about, knowing where are you headed? Well, if you don't have a direction, then you can wander around and never get to that place. But at least if you don't have a direction, then you're always in the right place. But we want to make sure that you are heading in the way you want to head. So thinking about your values, what drives you? What is important to you? You know, having that work-life balance, that can be very important. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that has changed dramatically. It used to be that when you were at work, you worked, and then when you came home, hopefully you had time for home. But since so many of us work from home during the pandemic, there's this new pattern that's established, and it's hard to separate those two. And so when you're looking at where you're headed, what is that work-life balance you would like to have? In whatever, major or career or change you make in your life, do you want to make an impact? What is the purpose, right, of you getting this job or studying this subject? Understand that you are always going to be learning. When we stop learning, we stop growing. So what types of things do you want to make sure that you've learned? Is it important for you to be your own boss, or do you want to be somebody's employee? The thing to remember about all these values is it's all personal choice. So there isn't a wrong answer. If you know that you want to be an employee, that's fine. If you know you want to run your own business, that's fine. We want to make sure, though, whatever one you choose, that you have the foundation beneath you to make that successful. And then, of course, we always want to make sure that our physical and our mental health are of primary importance, because if we aren't healthy, it's hard to get to places you'd like to be. And those are challenges, right? Some people have challenges already, like maybe they have attention deficit, right? Or social anxiety. It makes it hard for them to be around people. Other things are challenges, when you're trying to do that work-life balance, those family demands, even like social friend demands. All of a sudden, if you're devoting time, maybe you're starting your own business, you're starting so much time to that you might not have as much time for your family or your friends. And how is that going to be okay? Are there ways for you to structure your day or your week where you do have time to give to those other things that are important to you? Your level of education. Maybe you've always wanted to work in a hospital. You've always wanted to be a nurse, but you aren't a nurse yet. There are ways of getting to there. We just have to take steps along the way. Transportation can be a challenge. It might be that you don't drive or that you don't have a car. So always in your plans looking for, okay, what is the transportation? Is there a better place for me to live? Is there a way for me to get my license? And then location. Where are you going to center yourself to make where you'd like to be, primary importance, right? If you want to work in, like with the film industry, living in Warrenton, Virginia might not be a good idea, but, having those conversations with yourself, right? And so with these challenges, there also can be requirements, right? So if let's say you're going into the workforce and you're working in a company that has you be 100% remote. I can tell you personally, I know this, it can be very distracting to be at home trying to do your work, because there's always something, whether the dishes need to be done, whether laundry needs to be done, or maybe it's just even being on your computer can provide distraction because where there are other websites you can be on. For somebody with social anxiety, being remote might be a great idea, right? Or maybe there are workplaces that are more introvert friendly. So maybe it isn't a large office. Maybe there aren't a lot of people in that office. And using those challenges also. It also is a good thing, to think about health insurance. I know that's a very adult subject, but, if you are, in college, colleges do have health insurance that you can buy through them, but also then when you go out in the workforce, maybe there's a part-time job that you would love, but they don't have benefits. So is there something else you could do to provide those benefits? Or is there a different, finding a different job and trying to wait until something else that you really love comes forward? I have a friend who did that, and he actually was a bus driver for Fauquier County Schools because it provided full benefits and it allowed him to do his part-time job and get benefits. until he was able to transfer that experience he had in that field to a full-time job with benefits. And for some, part-time schedule is what they can do. And so that is also okay. When you are deciding what your values are and which way you're going forward, some people think that a SWOT analysis is a great thing to do. So set your goal. This is really what I want to do. And then with that goal in mind, do a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths? What do I do well and enjoy most? What are the weaknesses? What are areas that you'd like to develop further? And then what are the fears? What's getting in the way, the threats? This also helps if you don't know exactly what direction you want to go in. Just getting an idea of where you are right now will help you then moving forward. Moving to next, what is that long-term destination? And for some people, I know in generations prior to our generations, a lot of times individuals would leave high school or leave college, go and start working at a job and stay there their entire career. That isn't what's happening now. Most people will hold, I think it's now 5 to 7 different jobs in their career. And so it really is, this question of how do you envision happiness? What is that happiness for you? What is important to you? And so it's great to have an idea with those core values of what is important to you, and then thinking about where you really want to be. What do you want to do? And so here are little examples. Like if your goal is to have a career in healthcare administration and eventually work at a hospital, it's a great goal, but it helps to break it down, helps to have those benchmarks. So maybe you are leaving high school, going to Laurel Ridge or Germanna Community College. If having a career in healthcare administration is your goal and working at a hospital, where should you be after your first semester? Who should you have talked to? So of course, at Laurel Ridge, you would talk to one of the success coaches or advisors, and they would help you plan your schedule to make sure you're getting those courses. Also might be a good idea to maybe get a part-time job at the hospital or volunteer at the hospital, so you have some idea of what really happens in a hospital. Your second benchmark could be, okay, after I finish here at Laurel Ridge, what's my next step? What are colleges, are there colleges out there that have the healthcare administration bachelor's degree? Or do I want to go and work in a hospital for a little bit, maybe in one of those entry positions to see if I really like it, right? If you go do the college route, then having an internship is going to be part of your process. Getting that internship maybe at a hospital that you would like to work at is a great stepping stone, because then they already know you when you get to the employment phase. When you want a job, because they've already known you, they might keep you, right? And so that is, the first goal is very specific to a career. The second one is pretty general. Make enough money to buy a home and start a family. For this person, those values are home and family. And so probably going to be a good idea to talk to a career coach or look at salaries of different professions to figure out what profession not only would you like to work in, but how will you make enough money to do this? And then think about how to save and talk to a mortgage advisor. How much money will I need to save before I buy a home? Talking to your banker, things like that will help you understand budgeting. And so you have your values, you have your goals. How can you keep track of, are you headed in the right direction? And who can help you do that? So of course, we know that we want to maintain our physical health, right? And our mental health. So keeping up with your preventative health care. Do you see your doctor every month? Or not every month, I'm sorry, every year? Do you have a yearly checkup? When you aren't feeling well, do you go back? If there's something wrong, do you go back and ask about that? By having a great physical health and great, fostering your mental health, it'll allow you to have that energy you need to navigate, to get to your goal. It's also great to have support. We know that connection is very important. The Surgeon General just issued a paper on our country's loneliness, isolation epidemic. We know that having supportive relationships is the greatest protective factor anyone can have. So on your way to your goal, right? where you've set that. It's great to continue to foster those supportive relationships because there'll be days when it's hard, and having those people around you will help support you. Ask yourself, do you feel at home in your community? Because if not, there are probably communities where you would feel more at home. So as you're, moving forward with your goal, if it is like working in, as we said earlier, hospital administration, maybe looking at other areas that have jobs. Like, would I rather work, if we're speaking of Warrenton, Warrenton is a small town outside of a large metropolitan area. Do I want to try living in the city? Do I want to try living maybe somewhere more rurally? Find where you fit, because that will help make the journey easier. And then think about how you're spending your free time. Because there are a lot of things right now that what I call time sucks. So I don't know how many of you all have gone online to look at one thing and 3 hours go by because you've been sucked down the rabbit hole. Really put some things in place that prevent that, because there's so many other things. Like if you are spending so much time maybe online gaming, it takes away from maybe preparing for classes or making sure your job is done well or connecting with those family and friends. So we want to make sure that whatever your habits are, are you going to bed? Are you getting enough sleep? That they're supportive of yourself so you move forward. Okay. And so Bridget is now going to talk about potential roadblocks and take us forward. Oh, wait, we can't hear you.
Thanks, Renee. I just wanted to add on the ways that you're spending your time. If you find that you're, spending more time stressing than, actually being productive or happy in life, that's, a huge red flag as to, maybe this is not the right direction that you want to go in. So that's also another way to think about how habits are navigation devices. So onto potential roadblocks. We also want to think about what kinds of things might, stand in your way or might have you change, come to a fork in the road. So I'm going to go over those. Okay, so some of these might be, at this age, well, any age actually, a loss of important relationship. Maybe you decide that, your relationship is not fulfilling anymore and, divorce, or maybe you gain an important relationship. Also the loss of a job, unexpectedly, you might have to change direction because you've lost a job and you may not want to work in the same field. Failing a course or several courses for college students. That's a big sign that something is not working and you might need to change direction. Loss of your home. That's a major obstacle to overcome. You might have to couch surf for a little while, move somewhere else, relocate to another city. But these are things that's important to think about these things in advance and how you would jump over those hurdles. These are not, you should think of these as, or you could think of these as opportunities to, explore something different than as devastating losses. Because resilience is really important for your mental health and maintaining progress in your life. It could also be a health concern, a career-changing injury. These are things that we just don't think about on a regular basis, but they are opportunities to kind of reevaluate everything and, discover something new that, you hadn't thought of, but would really make you happy. And new addition or a new relationship, I think we covered that, but that's also, a new beginning. Thanks, Renee. How alternative routes and transfer stations. How will you choose at a fork in the road? So these are some alternative, when you come to a fork, these are some areas that you might explore. For example, taking a gap year from college, you might look at your workforce development department at, let's say it's Laurel Ridge. They might have other career paths for you to explore, and then you could take tests or see how you would do in those. Transfer or relocate, you could consult with your human resource department or your college admissions office to transfer to another college or another city where your organization has employment opportunities. Volunteer. Volunteering is a great way to see if a potential field is right for you. Or a potential organization, and the Path Volunteer Hub has tons of opportunities all the time. Network, try to connect with other people in other industries and see what opportunities are there, see what challenges they're facing, see if that's something that you would be interested in. Leadership programs are a great way to just hone your own personal skills, public speaking, everything actually. And it actually gives you a big boost in positivity and a new group of people to work with. Highly recommend that. And then also counseling. Say there's something personal in your life that you haven't dealt with. This is sometimes when you come to a roadblock or an obstacle, these are great points to really address things that you've been kind of just brushing over for a long time, and really get to the root of them and deal with them. And mental health association can definitely refer you to counselors. So rest stops, what will sustain you when the going gets tough? And you can.
I'm going the wrong way.
So it's really important to maintain your own happiness and fulfillment, even as you are, trying to progress. So we recommend intramural sports teams, a young professionals club, or your faith group. These are ways to find enjoyment outside of work and the constant strive to be successful. You also have to balance that with enjoyment in your life. Routines. Definitely work out a routine until it becomes second nature. For example, say you want to be more healthy, taking an evening walk every afternoon or would be a great first start. And then once you're in the rhythm of it, you won't even think about it anymore as something that you have to work at. It just comes naturally, and you'll find that it's something that you need in your routine to make you feel fulfilled every day. So mentors and counselors, I can't recommend this enough, especially for people that are just starting out. It's important to check in with somebody, identify one or two mentors that you really value, and really communicate the importance of having those check-ins and make it part of your routine, so that you can just have those benchmarks built into your life along the way. Someone to check in with, just talk about what you've done through the week, what your goals are, and they can kind of help you steer in the right direction. And then self-advocacy is so important. Always practice speaking up for yourself and really staying true to what's those core values that are important that we talked about earlier. And remember that you're not a passenger in your life, you're the driver. So if you feel like you're in a situation where you're just not happy, you're not being fulfilled, you're not navigating your own course, definitely reevaluate and see what you can do to make changes. All right, so a wellness plan and toolbox. As to put this back in the analogy of the car, and say a car breaks down, you consult the user manual. So that's what we can think of as the wellness plan and our personal wellness toolbox. So I want to go over that in the next slides. So wellness plan is something, especially for someone who has struggles with mental health challenges or has in the past. It's something that you put together when you're feeling mentally well and competent, and or if you've just recovered from something. A wellness plan outlines what you will do if you start struggling again, who you will reach out to, what are some signs that you're struggling, what are some crisis lines, and who would you be your support people. And it also gives you an idea of what wellness looks like for you. Say, for example, wellness for you is when you're taking a walk every day, or you're exercising regularly, and everything's going well, and you're involved in sports, you've got great balance between all these different aspects in your life. That's what you want to draw up here. So it's something that you can kind of visualize every day where you want to be, and then the signs of when you're slipping, what to look out for and who to call. It also has a spot for, emergency contacts. Maybe you take medication, you could probably list those on the wellness plan. It's pretty comprehensive. I think Renee knows more about these, but I think it's a great idea for anybody that's, wants to make progress in their life and is journeying, but still has mental health concerns, to really, keep all of that in balance.
It is a great thing. It isn't just for individuals who may have mental health challenges. I love it because it also helps me think about like reflecting on, am I well? You know, that's that first question. And what does it mean to be well? The other thing I love doing with this is sharing it with those people around you, especially if you are going to say you've taken a new job and you're moving to a new community. The people, your support group that is in your old community still wants to be helpful. And so this gives them an idea of like, okay, if I stop calling, or if I call you and I'm talking this way, this is what I need you to do to help me. So I think it's a fabulous way to find support. Now, if you've struggled already with your mental health, if you're and you're in a workplace, I would hope that you felt confident enough sharing your challenges, or maybe your workplace already knows this. Creating this wellness plan will also help empower maybe your employer or your coworkers knowing how to help you. And so I love these things, but there are some more details here that Bridget will go over about forming your wellness plan.
Sure. So the components of your wellness plan, as I talked about before, would be things that increase or maintain your wellness, like those daily walks, going to the gym 3 times a week, let's say, things that, and also things that decrease your wellness. Maybe it's, drinking a little bit too often during the week, spending too much time just scrolling. You feel like you're kind of just in a state of idleness. And then signs that you might need help right away, such as, like Renee said, if you're talking a certain way, or if you're just feel like a loss of control, that might be a sign or symptom. But then there's definite signs that you would need help, that you would know and you could identify. And then who to call when you're experiencing those times of stress. And so here are some tools for your wellness box. These are other ways that you can gauge whether you're in a well time, or if you might need a little bit more help. It can be difficult, to be honest, sometimes, to be like, I feel like, things are unraveling a little bit, but I don't want to panic over it. So some screening tools here are the stress test, where to get help, and mental health screening. And all of these tools are available on Mental Health America's website. And they're great. There's also tests for ADHD. Just highly recommend checking in with yourself regularly to see if you feel that, you might need extra support. I found online 31 self-care strategies. So there's a lot of things you can do, on your own to prevent yourself from getting to a crisis point, to take care of yourself. And they might not come naturally, when you're in a stressful time. So it's important to have those, at the ready when you feel really stressed and you can't think of something to do to calm yourself down. And by the way, I will share all these resources with everyone who's registered after the event. So I know I refer to some things pretty specifically, and I'll share them after this. So sports leagues, as I said, your organization might have a softball league, and I know many areas do. So definitely look into that. It doesn't have to be competitive, very serious. It can just be for fun, a lot in a great social activity. Hiking clubs, we're surrounded by beautiful environment. There's a lot of opportunities to get outside and appreciate that. And so hiking, I would definitely recommend that. For students that are in college or high school, Morgan's Message is a great student athlete organization, and just helps with awareness of mental health concerns among athletes and ways that you can maintain your mental health. And then the Path Volunteer Hub, which I mentioned earlier, all kinds of support groups, whether you're just a woman trying to deal with work-life balance. If you have mental health concerns, there's NAMI Piedmont, which offers group therapy once or twice a week. If you're recovering from a substance use concern, Celebrate Recovery and other NA and AA groups. Spirit Works locally also offers a lot of peer support. And then Young Life, for those who are looking for a faith perspective or more faith-based social group. There's also several worksheets you can do to just kind of identify what's standing in your way. what kind of things you could let go of and get rid of, how to plan healthy routines. I know it's so easy to say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. But when you're balancing that with your kid's schedule, your work schedule, it becomes very difficult. But if you really take time to work that into your schedule, you can make it happen. And then, as we said earlier, dealing with those roadblocks or obstacles would be a way of, worst case scenarios kind of, we do that a lot. That's kind of like a thinking trap, is thinking of what if it all collapses? What if it all doesn't work out? There's concrete and productive ways to think through those things. And a worksheet that I'll share with you guys is dealing with worst case scenarios. And then places that you can go to, like when you feel like I'm just not sure if I'm in the right track or doing the right thing, or I need more support. A library has great social activities, books that you can read about to sustain your intellectual curiosity. The wharf locally, tons of classes all the time, and the Mental Health Association offers also weekly or every other week wellness walks. So that's just an opportunity to get away from your computer screen and connect with others and not be so isolated. The C Recovery Center is in Culpeper, and they offer a variety of wellness and recovery classes and programs throughout the week. And it's also just a great place to just kind of relax and be around peer support. They call them peer support people, but people that have been through what you've been through and can kind of encourage you along the way. And then Parks and Rec, like I said, being outside is such a healing factor. Highly recommend going on a nature walk or hikes, and then churches. Even if you're not like a religious person, just being around people with that positive mindset can really help sometimes. And there's a lot of non-denomination churches for people that don't want to follow a specific religion. So I think that covers all of that in depth. And a great quote, I think, for all of us to remember is that life transitions are a part of life. We have to deal with them, and we have to just be ready and open and flexible. So what lies behind us and what lies before us are small matters compared to what lies within us. And I think that really gets at the gist of resiliency. You have it within you to make changes at any opportunity, no matter what you're facing or what you faced before. So I think I'll turn it back over to Renee.
Okay, so here are our contact information, but you can find us online, and Bridget will be sending you all information about this presentation and ways of contacting us. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I think a great thing to do is, if you are having trouble and not understanding maybe or not finding a path, sometimes I like looking around at people around me, maybe people that I look up to and maybe think that, their lives are how I'd like my life to be, or their jobs or something I'd like to do. I love calling them and just saying, hey, can I bring you coffee? And learn more about what you do. Having those conversations really informs what great ways of like, is this something I want to do? Are there other ways of, getting to this point? Do I really understand what this job is? Or if you really admire somebody for how they're living their life, taking them to coffee or taking them to tea or going on a walk with them and just saying, hey, how did you figure out how to live your life this way? Any way we can reach out and make connections is going to make us stronger, both emotionally, physically, and in our planning process, which I think is fabulous. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for attending.
Actually, I have a question.
Great. Okay, Gary, that'd be great.
I'm sorry. I usually pronounce your county's name wrong.
It's okay.
Fauquier. I'm working for the Fauquier free clinic. I'm an intern, actually. So right now I'm working on finding some resources and organizing a database to access it. But right now I have a question as far as when you were talking about how people are obtaining a job, and as far as the transportation issue was one of them. I feel like a definition that should have been added was precarious work. It is work that's uncertain, unpredictable, and risky from a worker's perspective. This can be frequent layoffs, unexpected transfers in positions, and their initial sign up for the position, and off-sharing of jobs that have disappeared from the job market. Another one that I wanted to ask too, as far as what about the discrimination tendencies with people who may suffer with disabilities or challenges in the workplace? How do you feel they should navigate with that?
I think it's very important for them to become very social, self-aware. So let's talk about maybe having a history of anxiety or depression. And maybe that has impacted previous jobs that you've had. So becoming super aware and super educated about what what anxiety is, what your triggers are, going back to that wellness plan, and really think about, say that you lost a job because of what, your anxiety, maybe you had social anxiety, would prevent you from going to work. And that finally led to a position, and you weren't sharing what was going on, that your previous boss fired you. And now you're unemployed and you're looking for a new job. Becoming more, understanding more about anxiety, being willing to work on it, so that as you're in that job interview, maybe that anxiety isn't going to show up there. Being ready with an answer in that job interview about, okay, you left your previous job, why? Some people would say that, oh no, I can never disclose that I have anxiety because they won't hire me. But if someone with anxiety has done their homework and is working on it, saying, well, in my previous job, I had developed this anxiety that I didn't tell anyone about, that it, stopped me. I stopped going to work. And so he had to let me go. Since that point, I have done X, Y, and Z, and I am, have met with a counselor, and I am, much healthier than I was. Being willing to talk about it can help. It's also good to sort of scout out maybe places that would be more open to that. And that can be hard to do, but still, the more you're aware of what impact your difference might be, the better you can explain it in a job interview. For some individuals maybe that have, I've heard from an individual who was in a wheelchair that Zoom interviewing was great for him because he didn't have to worry that people seeing him in a wheelchair would, discriminate against him being hired. And by making that first impression without them seeing him in a wheelchair, helped him. And he wasn't sure whether it helped him just in his own head or it actually helped the interview process. Because sometimes we can be our own worst enemies.
Right.
So Garrett, do you have other, did that answer your question?
I just want to add.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that,
Go
the
ahead.
encouraging thing, with mental health being such a prevalent concern is the workforce is really taking note. And I think that comes with self-advocacy, is really speaking up for yourself, knowing what issues you have, and just saying that, it's nothing, no different than someone who has a physical health problem, that you should be, treated with respect and dignity as well.
And Garrett, we would be
Thank you.
happy to meet with you, as you're, fleshing out this resource guide or whatever you're putting together to help fill in anything that, we could help with.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Right now it's a work in progress. I just got done with one of the big files, so I'm going to be separating them in different folders and files so they can be accessible.
Sounds like a great project.
So, I think I just have one big thing too that I wanted to add, like specifically for the man in the wheelchair that you were talking about. and how, being on a Zoom meeting, helped as far as his confidence. I feel like the biggest thing with employers is the stigma, as far as if he is able to even get through some of the doors in the office, or is he going to have to take off for so many appointments? So how would you explain that to an employer that this is not going to be an issue if it is an issue for them?
Well, I will tell you, as an employer, they tread very lightly on that because, of course, they don't want to get into like possible discrimination. But again, being very proactive, that advocacy that Bridget was talking about, when it became apparent, like saying, okay, this is, what questions do you have about me being in a wheelchair? Because a lot of people don't know, and we find that a lot of stigma is based on not knowing. It's that, and I don't like calling it ignorance because I don't think it's always chosen, but just being open and saying, hey, so, as you can see, I'm in a wheelchair. What questions do you have for me? And again, being that
I like that. Okay.
is a fabulous thing. And of course, there are plenty of online resources for individuals that have differences to help them sort of think about these things before approaching the marketplace, or the employment, trying to get a job and things like that. And of course, the Virginia Employment Commission has lots of help as well, as does Laurel Ridge. Laurel Ridge is great in their, they have success coaches there that people can go in and talk with them about their concerns, and they can help guide them maybe into one of their career paths that they offer there.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering that for me.
I think kind of to compare it to like what the Laurel Ridge has with success coaches. I mean, that's a part of their retention plan. They really want students to be successful and to graduate. So they try to provide all the support they can. You could probably, someone with a mental health concern could probably ask that on an interview at a job, what kind of retention programs do you have for employees? So, how important is it to you to retain employees, whether they have a disability or not, something like that.
I also always like using the word difference and not disability.
Thank
you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to ask you if there is a better word to use. So different. I like that one too.
Of course, we'll always hear about disabilities like in the federal legislation or in the statewide legislation. But to have people even who are labeled as being disabled, to have them even own it as being just a difference, I think is more empowering than to call it a disability.
Couldn't agree anymore. Well, I think that's all I wanted to add. I appreciate you answering that.
Of course. Well, Garrett, reach out and we'd be happy to set up a meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do my little self-care speech again because we are ending a little early. We have about 15 minutes, actually 13 minutes to be exact. And so I am very in favor of self-care. Everyone in their, date book put in that this was going to take an hour. So we have 13 minutes to do some self-care. So when we sign off, I want each of you to go out and do something that feeds your soul, whether that's, going out of this meeting and pretending to still being on the meeting and just relax in your chair, or go outside on this beautiful day, or go and make a smoothie, something that's going to sort of give you more power, more feelings of contentment for the rest of your day. Okay. Thank you so much. Love seeing you all, and reach out anytime if we can be of help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. It was a great